All right, so we've done all these things. We are now in our third phase. We are ready to go actually do the job where we are trying to unlock the limit break in the flow state in the world. So talk to us about our magnanimous leader and tools for this last stage.
All right. My favorite part, the limit break. So, in order to break limits, we have to do something different than everything that we've done up until this point. We have to do something unorthodox because if we just continue to do the same thing that's always been done, then what's going to change in the world? And so that's why our superpower is going to be compassion. And our hero who exhibits compassion in this case is going to be Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Could not think of a better hero and a more compassionate set of moments than Beauty and the Beast, where Belle continuously exhibits what we call compassion on Wonder Tour. And we define compassion as lovingly giving something of yourself, making a sacrifice for someone who cannot do anything in return for you, for someone who is not offering you some financial gain, some promotion, something like that, but instead you're making a sacrifice just because you care for that person, where you're actually going to take the brunt of the blow instead of them. And we see that with Belle, right? We see that with her father. She first offers to take the blow instead of her father. She gets put in jail in the Beast's castle. And we see it even to a greater magnitude later on when we have the villagers come in and they're trying to kill the Beast and they take him down outside of his castle. And Belle has this opportunity here where she can run away, but instead it's Belle's compassion that allows her to stay the course, and she stays there with Beast. And she picks him back up and goes back into the castle with him and nurses him back to health. And it's that moment that really spawns this change into the world. It's her doing something different than everybody who's ever looked at the Beast in disgust before. It's her having that compassion on him that changes his heart, that allows, in the end, the unlocking of flourishing, right? It's her self sacrifice, which is the tool that she uses here. And we have to be careful because we're not coming in here and saying that leaders should constantly be sacrificing of themselves in a way that makes it very hard to live your life. There's times when that's going to be the case, when we're going to need to make sacrifices that are seemingly too much for a human to make. But the more important thing, we're never going to be able to do that unless we make the daily sacrifices, unless each day we wake up and make the sacrifice of doing something for our family members, doing something for a friend, doing something for your neighbor, the person who can't really do anything for you, who you meet walking down the street, the junior employee who just started at the company and who obviously can't offer me any political gain. They don't have skills that I need to leverage or anything like that. But how can we, Brian, channel our inner Belle and have compassion and change the world in that way?
And we see this lesson, we see this pattern of behavior over and over and over again in these movies, right? To the extent where this is clearly like a cultural conception that we have of what does a great leader look like. Whether it's Obi-Wan or Morpheus or Gandalf or or Belle or any of our other leaders that we talk about, we see this real human connection with those around them, even people that maybe aren't obviously aspirational, to be friends with. And we see this willingness to, in the presence of the audacious and worthy goal, to step up and say, no, take me instead, or to step up and say, like, all right, I'm going to take the hit. You guys keep going. Right. We see that over and over again. And so, yeah, Belle's a wonderful exemplar of this.
And Brian, maybe why is this so important to humans? Probably because we're finite beings. We're beings that have short time. And if there's one thing that's guaranteed, it's you will die. And so it makes no sense for humans to make a sacrifice. It makes no sense to give of your most finite resource and get nothing in return. I think that's the secret of the limit break framework. It's this moment where we realize that in order to make this big change in the world, it will enact a cost. But as a leader, to be willing to pay the cost when the time is right, to do it like Obi-Wan does it, right? In episode 4, where he's there in front of Darth Vader and he has this opportunity to battle Darth Vader to the death. And instead, he makes the sacrifice. And we see Luke watching Obi-Wan in that moment. And what does that do? That changes Luke. Luke sees Obi-Wan and the way that he approaches the mission. He sees how aligned he is with the mission. And he sees that rather than trying to fight with his own strength, he's going to empower Luke. And he's going to take this stand against evil. And in the end, that stand against evil in that moment is what allows the good guys to win in the Star Wars original trilogy. It's what allows Anakin to come back out in Darth Vader in episode 6. It's that sacrifice that Obi-Wan makes in that moment. That's what we're talking about when we talk about using the tool of self-sacrifice.
And that's because as the leader, again, as if you're aspiring to be like Obi-Wan, it's because you're committed to the collectively reaching the goal. You're not viewing yourself as the indispensable hero who must personally solve all the problems. You're viewing yourself as the one who has the vision and the wisdom and the compassion to decide the right moments to spend your capital, to spend your personal efforts to shield your team from the blows. Right? That's the opportunity that you have. And if you take that, everyone will take that lesson to heart. They will see it happening and they will understand the correct way to value the mission. So let's talk about some practical ways you can do that in a business leadership context, right? When these opportunities come where you're confronting someone outside the organization, whether it's a boss or a client or something like that, right? As a leader, you should take accountability for challenges, for delays, for problems. But if things are going well, you allow the junior team members to report their successes. You're going to get credit anyway. If you're a leader and things go well, you're already going to get credit for things going well. You don't need to stand up and put your name all over things and paint your ego in front of it. You can allow junior people, but you don't want to demotivate your team by having them have to explain a thing that is a failure of the whole team. You don't want to demotivate your team. This is not an Obi-Wan or Gandalf level sacrifice, but it is absolutely a time when you can show your value and show your compassion to your team, is by standing up and saying, yeah, we got a problem here, and this is what we're going to do about the problem, and not throwing anybody else under the bus. And then there's the more private moments where you can look at your team, and if somebody's struggling, if somebody's suffering, if somebody's working too hard, you can say, is there anything I can take off your plate? Is there a job that I can do? Is there something I can assign to somebody else? Look for the opportunities to make sure that you aren't going home at 4:00 when everybody else is leaving at 9. Make sure that, that the team is healthy and going to make it to the finish line.